Welcome to the Loud Quiet. Ooh, empty nester. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that actually probably is the theme of the empty nest. What are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this thing. I don't know if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Sans children. Just us. We need a tissue box up here. Follow along on our journey and maybe, we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't have a clue how to be empty nester.
This is the Loud Quiet, Living the Empty Nest. Hey guys, welcome back. Episode 35 of the Loud Quiet. Thanks again for those who are continuing to listen or watch. We just appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback, mostly from my parents, but we're like the kids whose, parents, think they're the greatest and watch that. So yeah, but we do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking on our Facebook page. Just, again, if there's a topic that y'all would like us to, talk about or, oh, my cord is over, talk about, or, if you would like to be a guest on to talk about something, please let us know and we will be happy to accommodate that. So
absolutely, because we've done 35. We plan to do 35 more, and 35 and 35, and so yeah, it's been enjoyable. And as we talk about it, we're doing this for us to have a conversation and kind of just enjoy being connected. It's just been fun to have others along the ride as well, and we'll learn from y'all as we do. Speaking of rides, that's what we wanted to talk about today a little bit. We took a trip. I mean, it's it feels like a trip because it's 30 miles, but we went down into Dallas yesterday for a reason around Tanner and law school and those sorts of things. But those were some of our old stomping grounds. And it got us to thinking about, remember this house, remember that house. And so here we are almost living in this house that we're in now longer than I lived in my childhood home. I haven't quite figured out the math on that. It's fun to think about those memories as we've gotten to where we are. But we're not going to start there, because something even more important happened to us, and a lot of folks that are local listeners to here. Since the last time we recorded, we had the total eclipse, and it was mind-blowing. I fail at words.
Yeah, and, I was one of those people that I knew this was a big deal, but okay, I wasn't going to totally rearrange my entire schedule around it, but then
I blocked my day.
Yes, but then I, came home anyways, and I went to the grocery store on Sunday instead of my usual Monday. And it was really, really it was really neat for us because we were in the totality.
Path of totality, which is a phrase we're all going to be sick of.
And so we put a picture. I took pictures of Rick, before, and then as it was happening, and then when it was the dark, when our lights had come on, but you can even see in the third picture that it's even darker. And I didn't put the one that was like really dark. So,
and that was one thing this is why I'm glad we lived it versus photos. Because even when I look at the photos, it doesn't tell you how dark it was. No, it wasn't like being in a cave where you couldn't see your hand. It was night, though.
Yeah.
There were stars. There were planets visible at 1:40 p.m.
And what was interesting is that, just in downtown Dallas, it even got darker than it did at our house, because as it went further, whatever direction, it wasn't as completely covered. So it was interesting. It was a neat experience, and
the silence was something else. We were talking about the visuals, the audio for this. Crickets would start chirping. The birds stopped doing what they were doing. There was just a surreal stillness that happened.
And even at the places that had huge groups, they said the same thing. Everybody just got quiet.
Yeah.
And, it was.
We don't have bats, but where people had bats came out. And so,
and those glasses,
which made me wonder, when do those bats go back in? Like, are they out? It's 4 minutes. Like, oh crap.
Well, and those glasses were dark because I put them on to walk outside. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't see. I have to take these off. So you knew they worked. But
when I bought them, though, which I bought them a few months ago, I was worried when I got them. I was like, is this really real? Because I couldn't see a thing. And thankfully it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I was worried about falling in the pool.
Yeah. Yes, because we kept backing up and
As
looking.
you
I know.
stand and look at the
Finally,
sky, you're worried about falling back.
Finally, we went and sat in the chairs. But, you know, it really did. It worked out because we did not think we were going to be able to see anything because it was supposed to be super cloudy and maybe even
Storms,
rain.
yeah.
But it was like during that time, totally worked. And then the rain came later that day. So, yeah.
And boy, did it ever, because it was like the apocalypse. We have a total eclipse, which is, before our understanding of it was something that really scared the crap out of humans, like the world is ending. Then later that day we had hail, and then we had massive winds overnight. So it really was the end of the earth in a 24-hour period.
Yeah. So that was a neat experience that we got to experience in our now home. But now we can go back and talk about, we said, well, why don't we just do a path down all of our homes? And, for a lot of people, I mean, this is our fourth house. A lot of people our age have either lived in the same one the whole time, or, maybe a couple if you've changed cities. But, we had, 4 houses before our kids were, Tanner was 5 when we moved into this one. And so
we really didn't set the hardcore roots where we were not going to move unless something forced it. We were flexible before, which I think is why there was this count. We were not flexible when we moved into this house.
And, when I think about my growing up, we moved quite a few times. And so I could tell around year 2 or 3 in every house we were in, I'd start getting that itch of it's time to move, it's time to move. But this one has,
I'm glad that it was a home itch rather than like a marriage itch. The 7-year itch, you're like, I just want to change houses, not husbands. So that's good. I'm glad that worked out for us.
So yeah, but yes, our first home that we bought was in Dallas. If you are from the Dallas area, this is on the M Streets.
Right there, M Streets, Lakewood, right in between the two.
So we loved this location. The house was good. The house had some issues.
Oh my gosh, I want to experience this audio only because the way you said that is brilliant. It was an older house. It was a 1940 home.
I just looked it up.
Had a ton of updates. What it had was a lot of
add-on.
And I mean, add-on sounds really fancy. I'd almost like bolt-on.
Yeah.
Because the way it connected the house to what was definitely a covered garage at one point, I guarantee they built a garage, and then they're like, well, let's connect it with this weird little skinny hallway that was...
And the people that bought it after us knocked that garage down.
Yeah.
And that walkway where the laundry room was. But... and this is what makes me a little sad, not sad, but wondering about the generation after us, how hard it is to get into a starter home. This is a starter home. 180, I can't remember what we paid. I thought it was like 108.
No,
I didn't think it was it.
No, but it was definitely a 1 as a first digit, which good luck finding a 2 in the M Streets.
Because I looked at it yesterday and it's 6 something now, and I was like, oh my gosh.
This is a home, though, that I don't know that there was insulation in. It was incredibly cold. It was pier and beam, so there was a lot of...
Yes.
And
it was hardwood floors. The interior was beautiful.
Yeah.
It just had some layout issues, and but the interior was awesome. This is not our landscaping, just to be clear. This was a picture we pulled off of Google View because we couldn't find our picture. Well, we couldn't get into
this is
all
upgraded
the
from what we had.
Yeah.
And remember all the lilies that I had to yank out? Somebody drove by and said,
we yanked out, not...
I guess I was thinking of the day where you weren't there, and there was a woman that came up and she's like, "Oh, you thought? Yeah, take them all."
No, she wanted all the bulbs. They were tulips.
Tulips, not lilies.
It was tulip bulbs.
Tulips, that's right.
And all the remember the vines that were all growing on the side?
This is also a house that we were learning how to be homeowners. And I think that's as I think back to now as an empty nester, yesterday cleaning out a gutter, right? I know how to operate a home for the most part now. We didn't have a clue what to do here. Squirrels got in our attic. I don't know what to do with that. It took us months to actually discover that there was a cracked window in that second bedroom, and then having to figure out how to replace a cracked window.
I think because, we actually purchased this house before we got married, not long before, but a few months before we got married. A lot of people who get married don't go into a home, they go into an apartment or
Right.
go into, we were very fortunate that we could go into a house, and a house down on the M streets in a place that we loved. And, we, I thought about this today. We've gotten a pet or a kid at every house that we've been in.
Okay, so what's going to happen when we move next?
So, no. So this was Kibo, our dog. That I think we've told that story on here where, I was on a trip and I was coming back and I get this text, "Get home quick, there's a dog across the street." And our neighbors across the street had a farm, and they had found this litter of puppies and brought them back. And so yeah, like, right, I mean, this was probably a month after we had moved in.
Here's a tip, new
Best
marrieds.
and worst mistake we made.
Don't do this. Don't do this, new marrieds.
I mean, yeah.
If you look at this couch, you can see that it's not chewed to bits. Well, it got ripped to shreds later.
Did he rip it? Just on that one bottom part, yeah. But he was sweet and he was a good dog, and he moved with us to Houston, but he didn't live much after that. But yeah, so here he is on his little blanket.
With my Cheezosaurus, by the way.
Yeah, and then this was our first Christmas card picture, and we're holding Kibo by our. But yeah, I mean, the thing about this house is, yes, 1940s, but that room was solid.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was, because that was the main part of the house. The other stuff got added on. But yeah, that room.
It's a great point, because that's exactly it. The little solar room that they added on, it was so flimsy. Like, you even felt flimsy walking around it. And the hallway I'm describing, I don't know if you remember, it's kind of like the Six Flags house where you walked
tilted.
sideways.
Yeah, it was tilted, the one that connected to the driveway, yeah.
But the solid part of the house was absolutely solid.
Yeah, and then, again, in all of our houses, I went backwards. Amazing backyard. I mean, well, this is an amazing picture of us with our.
I didn't realize this was making it in there.
Yeah, in our inflatable pool. We were having
we had a
party.
pool in our backyard.
Yeah, we did.
Just happened to inflate.
So, but the backyard was awesome. Yeah. It was big, green, trees. It was just, it was a great backyard. We hosted barbecues over there with our friend group at the time, and so
there's the date on there. That's July 16th, 2000. We'd been married for all of about, let's see, that's not even two months.
Even 2 months.
It's a month and a half. Okay.
Oh. Hair's
listeners,
darker,
viewers, I'm going to need a little moment.
Shorter.
This is so, oh my gosh, we're so young.
I have a little post-marriage weight on me. So yeah. Anyways, if you'd like to see that lovely picture, you can tune in to the
So where's our next house?
Yeah. So from there, and this house, we were only in for a year.
Because I got a job offer down in Houston. Yeah. We have ultimate flexibility. It was during an era where you're kind of trying
no, we skipped this one. Because we were back down there last night, or yesterday. So we stopped off at Ozona, which, if you are Dallas people, great outdoor bar.
Restaurant,
food.
really.
Restaurant,
I mean, it's a restaurant, just a great porch with old trees.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me, and they've got signs that kind of help you feel that way, that it's got a Central Texas vibe to it with the trees and the porch and the like.
So this was...
We hadn't been there. We were talking about that, though. Think about this. This restaurant's been around. For us, it was an established restaurant 30 years ago when we were going to it. So it's kind of neat to go back to a world that doesn't feel like your same life.
Yeah.
Our young married life doesn't feel like our life.
No.
It seems like another world, another time.
And, now we're kind of getting back into that, because we were down at SMU to get a couple of things for Tanner. And as we were driving, it was fun seeing, there's Barley House, which Tanner's actually mentioned because he's been there. And there's Milo Butterfingers right across the street. And then turn the corner, here's Ozona. This was where we lived and did
our 20s.
And
so now we're going back in our 50s, and it's mind-blowing to do that. I've used that a little too much. We're going to have to scold me on mind-blowing.
So then we went to Houston. Yes.
This was after.
We love this
do you remember
house.
I lived in an apartment? I forgot about living in an apartment by myself because I had to move for my job before you came down there. While you wrapped up selling Dallas, while we tried to find a home, and Larry Mercer helped us find this house.
yeah, that I totally remember. So our first anniversary we went to Hawaii and we took the red eye back. I got off the plane and you got on another plane to go on to Houston. I went
I didn't
home.
remember that.
I
Wow.
went home and started packing our house in Dallas because
So there's a pro tip,
we,
y'all. If
yeah.
you don't want to pack, just say that you have to start your job right away and leave the packing behind.
And actually, I think, was that the one? No, this was the one where they came and packed everything and unpacked everything. It was so
Yeah,
awesome.
it was.
But yeah, so yeah, we did. And I lived with you in the corporate housing for a little
Yeah.
while until, that's actually where we got pregnant with Tanner. But then, so
Sorry, buddy.
yeah, it's fine. But, so yeah, so
This is High Meadow, so it's a neighborhood just
yes.
west of the Galleria in Houston.
the ranch style house,
One story.
Yeah.
God, so nice.
and I loved the front of it. Again, it had its flaws on the inside. And now that I looked at each one of them. And now that I've gone back and see what the people did after us or whichever, and they have really, they've made it really, they've done some things that would have, if we would have stayed there, we probably would have eventually done
Right.
too. So yeah, this is the house that, yes, we brought Tanner home to. So this was the kid for this house. And again, this house, amazing backyard. This doesn't even do it justice.
This is
'cause
probably
it
half of the
just,
backyard.
Yeah, because it just went on. And we had to put that fence up on the side because of the dog.
Again, more learning as a homeowner. And this is before YouTube. So trying to figure out how to build a fence in the era of before YouTube, it's a lot of conversation with Home Depot people, really. And I don't even know how people owned homes. I guess we did before, where you had videos to teach how to do stuff. But this
Yeah.
yard was great.
It was great. And we had a little swing that we tied off of that humongous tree. And we had great
This is where we had his first birthday
neighbors.
party. And so right there in that little nook there by the window was where the margarita machine was. Because the first birthday party is simply not for the kid.
Yeah.
It's for the parents.
Yeah.
We had a blast.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun in this backyard. And like I said, we had great neighbors. And
Home buying tip. Make sure you find one that has a sprinkler system, because this is before there was no sprinkler system here. So I'm dragging hoses all over this house and the Martell house. And I am confident. Oh, I don't remember. Kale's hat. Well, where we're going to go. But either way, yeah, with all this yard, and I was still doing the mowing myself then. So
and
it's great to have, but yeesh.
this is also the house that we closed on right before the flood.
That's right.
Remember? And I remember because I must have been on a trip or in Dallas. And I remember you're like, I went over and drove by the house. It's fine, But yeah, that was the horrible floods in Houston.
Yeah, that's right.
Just the round one, because they've had more.
Our
since
neighborhood,
then, but
our neighborhood flooded, but this home did
yeah.
not.
So yeah.
Do you remember we had, it was a self-storage unit that was behind us.
Yeah, because
Which
that's where
we
you
thought,
got the idea.
and we got a discount. Yeah. The home was lower priced because you're behind commercial. Best thing ever.
It was awesome.
The quietest
Yeah.
neighbor ever is a self-storage unit.
And our back fence was huge. Never
You wouldn't even know it was back there.
No. And there's no alleys in
Yeah.
either one of those neighborhoods. So, that was nice too.
Yeah.
So that was
We only were there for
Houston.
3 years, right? 3 years.
Yeah, because we had Tanner there and then I got pregnant with Tegan in this house,
Yeah.
but then we moved when I was 7 months pregnant. Yeah. 8. So
Wise choices, right?
so we moved to Flower Mound.
Suburb that is north of the DFW airport. If you live here, you know it, but if you don't, it's just a little north of DFW airport. It's in the area.
It was a good location for you because you were traveling
That's why I
some
picked it.
then,
And Washington Mutual, who I worked for at the time,
Was-
which we made the transition from Houston up for,
Yes.
was there in Irving.
yeah.
This home
Again.
does we talk about there's memories in this home. I never really loved this home. I love the memories that were there, but this home, honestly, from a home perspective, the only thing that I really loved about it, and different views here, was I would loved laying and looking out the window of our back window and watching the planes landing and taking
Yeah.
off. It was sort of hypnotic.
Yeah, I mean,
This one was a
again,
struggle for me.
this one was, we were kind of under the gun to figure out. I mean, we had to move quickly. I don't think we had enough, and we looked at a bunch of homes, but
And we looked at this one in the middle of a snowstorm.
oh yeah,
We made the decision to buy this home when it was covered in snow.
yeah, we were pigeonholed to kind of one area. So, and this was when Flower Mound was just new. It wasn't,
And I actually really liked the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there were some other neighborhoods maybe we would have wanted more. I had no problem with
Yeah.
the neighborhood itself. Just there were things about this home that I didn't like.
the layout was a little different, but I did love that we backed up to, there was a street behind us, but nothing was built on it, and there was a huge farm with cows and
horses, yeah.
and so the kid, like Tanner, we'd walk over
Yeah,
there
that's right.
just right outside. And again, another amazing, this backyard was awesome.
Yeah.
Had his, yeah, I know y'all put that together, but had his, playscape number one, and then there was still a whole area. I mean, it was, again, another, and I think that's one thing that's important to me and you, is to have a good, nice backyard area that, you can actually live and do things in. I found myself yesterday when I was going through looking at the pictures, getting emotional, because I was like, when I see the stove, and all I can picture is that video that she's climbing up the back of my leg and he's over at the kitchen table doing a workbook, which, if you know Tanner, that's, and all he's saying is strawberry, strawberry, and she's going rum, 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 So when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's just, now he's getting ready to graduate college. I mean, it's just, ugh.
Somebody's not able to handle this episode.
No.
And that's the thing, is the house is what I was meh about. The memories, I remember bouncing with him singing Vertigo by U2, because that had come out as we were playing that music. And I mean, even you and I have had some comical times there. Another tip for everybody: watch out for your relationship health when you're doing a fast.
Oh.
That did not go well.
No.
We had some fun battles there when we were hungry. But do you remember the kids, how they would interact through the glass?
Well, that's this picture.
Oh.
I've got it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, because Tegan, we brought Tegan home to this house. Tanner hadn't quite turned 3 yet. And so, yeah, here we call this the jail picture, because they've got their hands like up against the window. Tanner happened to be outside, and she, he could go outside and play, but she, not yet. So out of the two, which is so crazy, she was way more mischievous than he ever was.
At this point,
age. Yeah.
we would have said that she's the one that's in jail.
It's going to be the one that's like,
I felt
because,
that.
I would find her unrolling all the toilet paper. I have that picture. So, she was in the cabinet. Tanner just never messed with any. Tanner was happy to just go sit and read his books and then go play outside. She was way more into stuff than he was. But yeah, we love this picture. That's one of our favorites from.
And that's, I mean, we've got obviously one more home to talk about. I can say what I say about this house. I'm like, I don't really care about the house, but the moments of life there that are going to never be taken away from that house will always be those memories. There's the good, the bad, her in the Jeep playing, oh no,
that's here.
He had a Jeep.
But he wouldn't drive it. He didn't like it.
No, but he would be driven in it.
Yeah.
Bouncing around in the back of my truck. Like there was all sorts of things that we would do at this house.
It's another thing that, he hated that Jeep. He would not drive it. So when we got over here and she was tall enough, she took off in that thing. It was like, all right, it's mine. So
good times.
But so that was Flower Mound. And then you switched and started working for J.C. Penney, which was on the other side of the Metroplex.
Made sense to move over to Frisco, and I'm so glad we chose Frisco. over some other cities. Obviously, everybody's got their own paths, but how this city, this was our permanent selection. And I think there was a little more pressure. We had more time, but there was some pressure on choosing this. I'm so glad it was the way we had the school
Yeah.
system and all that sort of stuff.
And in this house, we actually
We did build
built,
this one.
but I mean, through a builder, but we got to make some decisions, and so again, which we've learned now, there would have been things that we would have done differently, but I mean, we've been in this house 17 years. It's probably like this week. Actually, I was thinking it was April.
Yeah.
So, 17 years. So Tanner was just about, it was the summer or right before the summer before kindergarten. Tegan turned 2 in this house. So we must have moved in right before her birthday.
Probably.
But all there were 4 couples. We all moved in. This street all kind of got developed at the same time. We all moved in at the same time. Still very close with 2 of the couples. The other one moved away. But
This was just, we pulled a grill out front and said, bring
yeah,
meat.
and that's how we met everyone. And the kids, we've talked about, they were all stair step. They all played out front constantly. And that is one advantage. I know everyone hates the alleys, but alleyways, not our neighbor, not our neighbors, the alleys. Sorry, I had to specify that. Driving down the alleys, but this was awesome because they could run across all of the yards without having to think about cars pulling in and out of driveways and that kind of thing. So it does have its disadvantages for alleys, but that's one advantage. So yeah, this house has been our core house.
I was saying to you that we're getting close to the point that I will have lived in this house longer than I lived in the childhood home that we did not move in.
Yeah.
And we may have already crossed that threshold. It just depends on how I count it. Do I count it when I graduated from high school? Or do I count when I graduated from college and moved to Dallas? Right? We're in that range, and it's weird that's kind of weird for me because how I still talk about Austin, and that's kind of where my permanent heart will always be Austin. But I will have lived in Frisco longer, very, very soon.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
And it is neat to have been in a place for so long because we have seen Frisco change and grow, and some things are good, some things are not. But and yes, our kids got to go kinder through senior year with the same people that stayed the whole time. Both of them got to know their friends from kindergarten that were still their friends senior year. So
this do we have another?
no.
So we didn't have this is a
didn't
very
put
early
any more.
picture. The snow part of
Yeah.
it is just coincidence that's the picture we had. For those that know our home, look at the size of those trees that you're looking at right here. It's
They are
shocking to see how.
tiny.
And actually, one of those trees, there's a story with it that one of the windstorms knocked it all the way out of the ground, root balls sticking up in the air. We never thought that tree would make it. And we've now had to do its 3rd tree trimming yesterday because they've still gotten so big.
I mean, they're above the house now.
above the
Yeah.
house, yeah.
They're, it just, yeah.
This is the home that we put a pool in. This is the home that, graduation parties. There's been a wedding in this house,
Yes, there have.
right? Chad Noom got married in this house. Your parents, which anniversary was it that we celebrated in this
50th.
house? 50th anniversary that we celebrated in this house.
we have
right?
had so many parties, get-togethers. I mean, even on Friday night, we were getting together with JP and Aaron. I said, "Hey, it's nice outside. Y'all just,
Let's go to the house."
We have set our backyard up
now
to be a nice area to hang out, socialize, and so I said, you know what? Instead of trying to find somewhere to go, just come over here. We hung out outside for hours. It was beautiful. It's just that is.
There's times that I think about that the pool that we have out there and the hanging out there. When I'm in the pool and I'm in the deep, it's kind of water up to your neck. I think to myself, this was grass. Yeah. Where I'm standing or floating or whatever is where I camped overnight with
And
the
the
kids.
and they had a jungle gym.
Jungle gym back there.
Yeah.
We actually had bounce house. Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah,
did a
for
bounce house back there for
Tanner's
Tanner's party.
birthday.
So
Huge, that huge slide thing. Yeah, and again, we picked this lot because
yeah,
it
had
had a
wider.
big backyard. So, and like I said, there are things that we love about this house and things that we don't love so much. But now that we're,
This one will be if, and I'm going to use the word if, but I mean, everybody does leave their house at some point, whether, willingly because you've transitioned to a different choice or through age, you are no longer to be there. This one's going to be interesting to leave, like from an emotional perspective, from a sentiment perspective,
yeah,
because it's been so long. And this isn't some tease or drop, oh, hey, Clancy and Rick are moving or anything. It's just, it's going to happen because that's what happens. You do have to go somewhere else, especially with 2 stories. What's that going to be? I mean, one of our rooms is labeled the grandma room,
yeah,
right? Because at a certain time, a grandma would come there. My mom, your parents being local.
yeah.
So there's a lot that's happened.
Yeah, it'll be, and like I said, we started with a pet at the first house. This house we didn't get any children, but we got our child got a pet.
That's right.
So,
There's still just
which
the cat that lives rent free in our house.
he's over here. I can hear him, but
Yeah,
yeah,
take him anytime you want to take him. He's ready to go.
it will be. And I think you and I have obviously, especially now that we're in the empty nest phase, talked about what's next for us. And I think I did. I think I threw you off guard this week because the wind in North Texas is atrocious, and it has gotten worse. I think the longer we've lived here, or I just
We're just less.
can't
Yeah, we're
tolerate
probably
it
more
anymore.
sensitive to it, right?
But it was so windy the other day, and you were like, "That's it, we're moving." And you used to say that all the time, and be like, "No, we're not." And this time I was like, "All right, let's go." And you looked at me, and you're like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine with it now. Our kids are done." That's what was holding us here for so many years was
Right.
I wasn't going to move them.
Right.
I wanted them to have the experience that, I didn't. And so, but now
We could. I think as we get,
again,
Yeah.
we're not, mom and dad, don't freak out. We're not moving this year, especially now that Tanner's coming back
That's it,
here.
right. The fact
we're
that
not
he's
going to
open.
hightail it out of here when he's not living here, but
Yeah.
we're not going to leave. But
And that's what, so that's what was enjoyable about, so yes, the wind, but even being in the suburbs, that while we have a lot of great things out here, heck, the PGA, we've talked about that. There's really great things out here. It's not the same as a walkable, hey, let's just wander over to something. And that's what was neat. I know we've got a text of the week, but I want to talk about a little bit about yesterday because it was we were back to being kid less
yes,
at that
we went
point.
back. We
Yeah,
got to do empty
we've
nest
spent a
stuff
lot of
again.
time on this show talking about our kids the last few episodes, and even this one with the memories of our kids. Well, there will be those ebbs and flows. I think I even said, are we masking being empty nesters by all the traveling we're doing with the kids? Well, no, yesterday was actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yes, the reason would we go to SMU if Tanner didn't get to law school there? No, probably not. But we were there for us. We were wandering around the campus for us. We chose to go to Ozona for us. It was nice to do that again with you, to be just Rick and Clancy, the loving couple, not Rick and Clancy, the couple and the parents.
And it was just nice. We had no schedule. We didn't have to be back for anything.
No.
It was just nice. And, it did reinforce again, though, that this is why you can't live in Frisco and work or go, or I'm
He couldn't
sorry
go to
for the
school
people
downtown.
that do, because on a Saturday in the middle of the day, 53 minutes to get down
And
there
it took
because
us
there were
longer than that
wrecks.
because they kept adding wrecks.
Yeah. So
They kept adding like it's some sort of order.
Yeah.
It was frustrating to be, because we know Dallas, we zigzagged our way around. It still took forever. It was nice not to have a schedule, though. Like, I didn't feel my blood boiling because, we've got to get to a theater. We've got to get to dinner. It was like, we're going to go to the campus. We're going to wander around. Then we're going to find something to do.
Yeah.
That's the part I think I'd like. That's the part I
Well,
love
here.
about being an empty nest is there's no schedule.
Okay. So remember when we were leaving Ozona?
Okay.
Okay, so we're getting in the car, and out comes so,
I
talking
hope
about
y'all hung this long.
out comes a mom, a dad, a girl in a cheerleading outfit. I won't say which
Competitive cheer.
competitive cheer outfit. We recognized it. and two boys that had looked like twins,
YMCA
soccer
soccer.
age. Yeah. So they're walking in, and I mean, the one little boy is throwing a fit. I mean, an absolute fit. And they just stop. The mom is like not happy. The dad's not happy. The dad's probably like, we've just been at a cheer comp. I want to go in here and have a drink.
The Masters was on.
Yeah, the
and so he
Masters
probably
was
wanted to
on,
have a beer and watch the Masters and just.
and the mom probably wanted to just get in and have a drink as well.
She
'cause
probably wanted to watch the Masters
yeah.
too. Let's not be gender. You're right.
And that little kid would not stop. So she just turned around. She said, "That's it. We're leaving." And they got right back
Didn't
in
she
the
say,
car.
I'm not having
Yeah,
this?
she said, "I am not having this." So
Yanked them
bless
all
her
back
heart.
around
I mean,
and
I-
got back in the car and left.
and
And then what was funny is he was throwing the fit about going in, but as soon as she turned around, then he threw the fit about being
Leaving,
told
yeah.
that they couldn't go in. As we're sitting there going, oh, that was a nice hour and a half by ourselves. We'll just so
yeah, that just topped it right there, because that was our exact cheer and soccer. That was our life. Like,
and to
Yeah.
watch them have that meltdown and then compare and contrast to the freedom that we have just
Yeah,
described. I obviously, we would never change what we did with experiencing parenting, but it's kind of
It was-
delicious to
yeah.
be in this
Yeah.
phase of life too.
you just want to say, it's okay. It'll all work out. Just get through it.
No, I don't want. I want to say, hey, it's going to be bad like this. You'll be here eventually. Oh, that was. I'm glad you brought
that was
that up.
funny. But
That
so
was
we do. I pulled this text from Tanner this week, because I think Tegan was last week. But he, for those of you who don't know, Tanner's been taking Japanese that's the language that he chose in college. So, and he's had a couple of different professors that. Those classes are not real big, so you get to know your
There's
professor.
relationships
But
that are built.
so he sent us this.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Yes, such a fun encounter whenever I run into my Japanese professor or former professors on campus. Immediately switching into Japanese is a subtle flex to the people I'm walking with. Laugh, laugh. It's happened like 4 times last month.
Yeah.
What a like a flex to use his. I don't use that word, but to use his generation's words.
Yeah.
To just suddenly pop into
in,
not
yeah.
just a romantic language like French or Spanish. I don't even know if I got that right, but French,
But
Spanish.
Japanese, which is very hard. But so he's obviously
We're almost there.
wrapping up.
Yeah.
He's he said he submitted his revisions for his thesis. They got approved. He's done with that. He had a presentation in another class. We're down. I mean, three weeks from yesterday, we will be there for graduation. So he has probably 2 weeks of class left.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
So, yeah, I can't believe we're here. So yeah, the next,
We're going to need more Ozona visits.
So yeah, there you go.
It's fun walking through the houses, of course.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the eclipse at the beginning and what that looks like.
And it's fun to think about what our next, house and location will be. And
Hey, maybe
you
we'll
know,
buy something in the Park Cities.
We
We'll-
talk about that a lot. No, I don't want to live in the Park Cities. So, no offense to anyone who lives in the Park Cities. I just don't want to live down in that area.
You don't want
No,
to
I
get.
don't.
You don't want to. No. You don't want to get a house, and then we'll have like the apartment in back where Tanner lives, and it'll just be all together.
Sorry, that's not happening.
No, I wouldn't want that
So,
either.
yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us down our house memory lane today. This has been another episode of The Loud Quiet,
Living the Empty Nest.